How much do you know about Ava Gardner's nymphomania? Unmask Marilyn Monroe's communist ties, Joan Crawford's alleged sadism, and the shocking speculation about the biggest figure in Hollywood. Today we're diving headfirst into the nastiest rumours of vintage Hollywood that they never wanted you to know. I'm diving deep into the juiciest rumours that swirled around old Hollywood, the secrets they desperately tried to keep under wraps. What can you expect? Get ready for some jaw-dropping revelations involving Hollywood legends. I'm also throwing in some extra bonuses to complete the whole picture. But wait, there's more! The grand finale is about none other than the King of Hollywood himself, Clark Gable. So make sure to stick around till the end, because this story unfolds as you watch the video. By the time we're done, you'll see Hollywood and these iconic figures from a whole new perspective. It's going to be an eye-opening experience. The golden age of Hollywood was a time of glamour and excess, but it was also a time of scandal and intrigue. Back in those days, Hollywood stars had to toe the line when it came to their reputations. They had about as much freedom as a caged bird, with studios controlling everything from their daily routines to how they looked. But despite all that, rumours ran rampant. Remember, a rumour doesn't care if it's true or not, it just wants to be heard. This was the era of Hollywood fixers, the experts who worked behind the scenes to bury scandals and crush dangerous rumours that could have destroyed the lives of vintage stars. Their mission? Safeguarding the golden goose of Hollywood, the stars who equalled success and, more importantly, money. Studios craved money, no matter the cost. But as we all know, nobody's infallible, and when there's dirt, it rarely stays buried for long. Let's chat about the actress who's synonymous with vintage Hollywood, the one who embodied that era, Marilyn Monroe. Rumours? Well, they've always followed her around, so it's no shocker she's on our list. But today we're not diving into her alleged JFK affair, heard that one plenty, right? Nor are we dissecting her mysterious death. No, today it's all about those whispers that suggest she might have been a communist. Yeah, her political beliefs have been poked and prodded for years. There's some proof she leaned towards socialism, and even had the FBI keeping an eye on her for possible communist associations. The federal government has finally released FBI documents relating to Monroe more than 50 years later. The documents are dated back to around 1955, which is when she began dating playwright Arthur Miller, who was suspected of being a communist. During this time, known as the McCarthy era, the Cold War between the US and the USSR was in full swing. With the Soviet Union expanding into Eastern Europe, tensions ran high. The FBI and the House Committee on Un-American Activities were on high alert, keeping a close eye on anyone suspected of sympathizing with communism as they sought to uncover possible Soviet spies within the US. Marilyn was under intense FBI surveillance almost all the time. They suspected that she is connected to radical unionists and left-leaning political circles, especially in the months before her early death. FBI surveillance of Monroe began in 1955 when she applied for a visa to visit the Soviet Union. When she applied for a visa, it was said that it was as part of a cultural exchange program. She mentioned, "I am looking forward to visiting Russia and other countries. I haven't applied for a Soviet visa, but there's a possibility I may visit there sometime in the future." At the time, the Soviet embassy said the visa request was under consideration. This watchful eye remained on her until her death in 1962. The most recent records in this collection go as far as 1973, a full decade after her passing. So let me share a couple of tidbits with you. Like a little bonus from that massive 85-page dossier that the FBI spent a whole decade, and who knows how much money, putting together. Monroe's inner circle, including her hairstylist, interior decorator and therapist, noticed her increasing fascination with and adoption of communist ideas. These folks and others ended up working as informants, directly reporting to the FBI. For example, they mentioned a mutual infatuation that had developed between Frederick Vanderbilt Field and Monroe. The records revealed the FBI's heightened interest in Monroe's interactions with American expatriate Frederick Vanderbilt Field, who resided in Mexico. Field, disowned by his elite family for his leftist beliefs, played a significant role. The FBI files contain an account of Monroe's visit to Field in Mexico shortly before her death. In his autobiography, Field recounted Monroe's fervent commitment to justice. She expressed her strong support for civil rights, racial equality, and her admiration for China's achievements. She also voiced her anger against red-baiting, McCarthyism, and her disdain for J. Edgar Hoover. Field was living in exile in Mexico when Monroe visited him and fell in love. According to the FBI, she arrived in Mexico on February 19, 1962, no longer with Miller but still influenced by him and his politics, and you won't believe how much juicier this gets. Her entry into the country was reportedly arranged by Frank Sinatra. One source advised that during the course of the visit a mutual infatuation arose between the subject and Frederick Vanderbilt Field. This situation caused considerable dismay among Miss Monroe's entourage and also among the ACGM, the report states. Now you might be wondering who's the source, who could constantly inform the FBI about her every move. It's logical to think it has to be someone very close to her, a friend. Well, no, that one source was her housekeeper. The FBI points to Eunice Murray, Monroe's housekeeper, as a source, although this is disputed by some. It's also worth noting that the source was identified as Eunice Churchill in FBI records and was introduced to Monroe by the actress's psychiatrist Ralph Greenson. She was a close friend of Monroe's and had her own leftist affiliations. Churchill said Monroe felt like a forgotten sex symbol after Miller's third marriage and that she was influenced by Miller's leftist views. The report states, she said the subject is very vulnerable now because of her rejection by Arthur Miller and also by Joe DiMaggio and Frank Sinatra. She telephoned Sinatra to come comfort her, and he would not do it. This is just a couple of the millions of files that the FBI kept on Monroe. A lifetime wouldn't be enough to discuss all the cases they suspected and accused her of, but the FBI isn't entirely reliable. They sometimes make things up. So let's move on to another rumour that was like a wildfire in Hollywood. This one is also about a glamorous actress who was a heavyweight femme fatale at the time. Her life was far from clean of scandals, but I'm going to reveal one that was rarely talked about because it's a very sensitive topic. You have to understand that the vintage era was a different time. You couldn't speak about any topic. There were some subjects that were inappropriate even to mention, especially not in public. Anyways, speculations were unstoppable, just like it seemed with Ava Gardner's sexual appetite. The rumour that Ava Gardner was a nymphomaniac was started by her own studio, who was trying to make her into a sex symbol. Nobody knows what is true and what is false about me anymore. I'm not sure that I know myself anymore, she said. Before Marilyn Monroe or Farrah Fawcett, there was Ava Gardner, known as the most irresistible woman in Hollywood. She reigned for decades as an American sex symbol. Among her lovers there were Howard Hughes, Frank Sinatra, Ernest Hemingway and Clark Gable. She even dated bullfighters and millionaires, and none of them could handle her. Ava didn't mince words. She once referred to Aristotle Onassis as a horny little fella and poked fun at Marlon Brando's performance issues. She fearlessly stood up to Hollywood's most powerful men like Louis B. Mayer and Humphrey Bogart and shared a drink with Winston Churchill. She was an absolute firecracker. It's not that hard to imagine that she also had a huge sexual appetite, right? I'll be honest, when I started reading Ava Gardner, The Secret Conversations, I was hooked by the idea that these were juicy, top-secret chats, locked away until Ava's passing. But now that I've read it, I'm not so sure. Ava wasn't exactly discreet after a few drinks. She wasn't exactly tight-lipped. Her stories felt more like her usual party banter, a bit of crude humour to keep her listeners wide-eyed. Peter Evans, the co-author of this book, points out that when she repeated a line he'd heard before, she even made it sound like the first time she had said it. In other words, these tales weren't just for him, they were part of her well-practiced routine. My hunch is that most of this information could have been unearthed through interviews with other people. Nonetheless, there's no substitute for witnessing Ava in all her unfiltered glory firsthand. Ava was a stunning beauty, the sexiest woman ever to grace the silver screen. She had a multitude of lovers, often crediting Mickey Rooney with educating her in the art of lovemaking, which she became addicted to. Gardner, a teenage virgin from Grabtown, NC, was discovered by a talent scout in 1941. Growing up poor and uneducated, her mother always believed in Ava's potential to become a movie star, and so did she. "I wasn't dumb," Gardner confessed. "I knew that my looks might get me through the studio gates." She acknowledged that she wasn't a great actress and didn't mind. "A lot of my stuff ended up on the cutting room floor," she remarked. "A lot more should have." Following a successful screen test, she signed a 7-picture deal with MGM. She became the object of desire for every leading man in Hollywood. On her first day at the studio, she met Rooney. "I wanted to have sex with you the moment I saw you," he candidly told her. Gardner, then 18 and innocent, recalled, "I was shocked. I still didn't know he was the biggest wolf on the lot. He'd screw anything that moved." After a year of courtship, they tied the knot, and one of Hollywood's greatest sex symbols remained a virgin on her wedding night. "I caught on very quickly," she quipped. She shared that Rooney was such a rampant womanizer that he shamelessly cheated on Ava right in their marital bed, all while she was recovering from an appendectomy in the hospital. "He went through the ladies like a hot knife through fudge," she said. Her best friend Lana Turner, who'd slept with Rooney first, called him Andy Hard-On. Ava also admitted she never loved Howard Hughes, despite his generosity in paying for her ailing mother's medical care. He was also a racist. His jealousy and paranoia pushed her away. She tied the knot with Shaw, who had left his wife for her, but at that time she was smoking 3 packs of Winstons daily and partying hard. She even began to doubt her own intelligence because of her new husband and took an IQ test. "He had convinced me that I was completely stupid," Gardner confessed. "Now, I didn't have an IQ through the roof, but it was higher than you'd think." She called him arrogant and controlling. And guess what happened a mere week after celebrating their first anniversary? Shaw left her out of the blue for another woman. But the men's list doesn't end here. Most famously Frank Sinatra, who also left his wife for her. Sinatra knew it was true love on their very first date. They embarked on a late-night, booze-fueled drive from Palm Springs to Indio. During this wild ride, they didn't hold back. They shot out street lights and store windows with a pair of .38s that the chairman had stashed in his glove compartment. In one interview, Gardner said that Sinatra was the best lover I ever had. She also said that he was very passionate and very giving. But she also said that he could be very demanding and very possessive. Another time, Gardner was asked what she thought of Sinatra's performance in bed. She said he was a quick study. She also said that he was very creative and always up for trying new things. But Gardner's love life was a complicated web. While she was involved with Sinatra, she was also entangled in an affair with the married Robert Mitchum. "I was crazy about him," she confessed. But when she shared her relationship with Sinatra to Mitchum, he decided it was time to call it quits. He said, "Get into a fight with him and he won't stop until one of you is dead," Gardner recalled. He didn't want to risk it being him. After all this, we can declare that Ava loved sex. The rumour that she was a nympho was probably a marketing gimmick, but you know what they say, there's a grain of truth in every lie, right? But hold on, because the juiciest chapters of her story are still waiting to be revealed. My next revelation is a real game changer. Who comes to mind when I mention the next topic? One of Hollywood's golden age icons. Her on-screen glamour inspired many, but her off-screen life was complex. She's known for being demanding and aloof. I'm talking about Joan Crawford being a sadistic person. The rumour was that she was a monster. Began with her adopted daughter. Christina, in her book titled Mummy Dearest, detailed her mother's alleged abuse. These rumours have lingered on ever since. She asserted that behind the glamour was a cruel and sadistic personality. So where does the truth lie? Joan Crawford was a woman renowned for many things: her long-standing feud with Betty Davis, her sexual prowess and her ability to assert control through her femininity. She adopted 5 children over her lifetime. But shortly after Crawford's death, her eldest adoptive daughter painted a much darker picture of the actress. She portrayed her as an alcoholic and abusive mother, prone to fits of rage. While the public had some inkling that things between mother and daughter were far from harmonious, this was a whole new level of shock. And here's an exclusive bonus I'm sharing with you. These are some of the most extreme claims from the original memoir. Crawford detested wire hangers, once waking her daughter in the dead of night, berating her for using them. She reportedly yanked her daughter by the hair, screaming, "No wire hangers, no wire hangers," while striking her with one until her ears rang. But the drama didn't end there. Christina's cherished dress met a tragic fate after she pushed her mother's limits. Crawford tore it apart and forced Christina to wear the tattered dress for a week to shame her. There's more. Crawford was known for her night raids, where she'd rouse the kids from sleep intoxicated and compel them to clean messes they didn't even create. That's not all. For refusing to eat a rare bloody steak, Christina claimed she was starved for days, a twisted attempt by her mother to assert control. Her brother, Christopher, was allegedly kept restrained in a sleep-safe device, and Christina was bound in the shower at night. As if that weren't enough, Christmas, meant to be a time of joy, was anything but for the Crawford children. The kids received many gifts, but were allowed to keep one, the rest destined for charity or re-gifting. They also had to pen meticulous thank you cards for each gift. At 13, Christina suffered what she called her final brutal beating. Fearing she'd be choked to death by her mother, she resolved to protect herself if it ever happened again. The horrors didn't stop there. Crawford lashed out once more when she suspected Christina of making advances towards her husband, Alfred Steele. By 15, Christina was so devastated by her mother's treatment that she attempted to end her life at boarding school with a pill overdose. Her mother never reached out or addressed the situation afterward. While not directly blaming her mother, Christina hinted at something suspicious about her 4th husband, Steele, tragically falling down the stairs only 3 years into their marriage. After hearing all this, how do you feel about Joan Crawford? I told you that your perception of her would be completely changed after watching this video, and it's understandable. These publications generated an enormous amount of attention. Some of Crawford's friends disputed the version of events presented. Myrna Loy stated, "Christina wanted to be Joan Crawford. I think that's the basis of the book she wrote afterward and everything else. I saw what Christina's mind created, the fantasy world she lived in." It's rumoured that Crawford was aware of the book's existence before her passing, but never broached the subject with Christina. In her will, she left out Christina for reasons she knew, and gave her estate to her twin daughters. And now we've hit the mother lode. Remember, I promised no juicy details would be spared, and I meant it. Get ready for the bombshell, the most scandalous rumour of them all, and it's about none other than the king himself, Clark Gable. I can almost hear you saying, "Come on, we've heard it all about him, no surprises there." Well, this one's a game changer. You might have heard plenty of rumours, that's true, but there's one aspect we need to dive into: the speculation about his sexual orientation. Yes, you heard me right. Even the biggest heartthrob in Hollywood wasn't immune to such rumours. It's a tough pill to swallow, I know. Stick with me through this video, it's about to get wild. Clark Gable confessed his homosexual relationship to Joan Crawford, but prepare to be shocked by what Marlene Dietrich had to say about Gable. Despite his marriages and high-profile relationships, speculations about Clark Gable's sexual orientation has always loomed. To grasp these rumours, let's dive into Gable's personal life. Gable tied the knot with 5 women. Maria Franklin, Rhea Langham, Carole Lombard, Sylvia Ashley and Kay Williams. He was also romantically linked with Hollywood icons like Joan Crawford and Lana Turner. Given his extensive history with women, it's reasonable to assume Gable was straight, but there's more to this story. Some still suggest he might have been homosexual, using his relationships with women as a smokescreen. Others entertain the idea that he could have been bisexual. Let's uncover the truth. Back in 1925, when Clark was still a struggling young actor, hungry for a break in the industry, he found himself in a short-lived affair with none other than the Hollywood star and openly homosexual icon, William Haynes. There were plenty of witnesses who saw them together, both on the studio lot and at a wild party hosted at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, where they engaged in various intimate activities. You see, it was all part of Gable's relentless pursuit of fame as a movie star. Even his future flame, Joan Crawford, didn't hide the fact that he and Haynes had shared something romantic. Clark confirmed this to her years later, but the truth is she was already in the know, since she was close friends with Haynes too. In the mid-1930s, William Faulkner ventured into Hollywood, accompanied by Ben Wasson. It was there that he encountered and struck up a friendship with Clark Gable, whose interests spanned both women and a more concealed attraction to men. Faulkner and Hawkes continued their hunting escapades well into 1942, often with Gable joining them as a companion and drinking buddy. As Hawkes' wife stated after a 1942 hunting expedition, Faulkner and Gable shared a bottle of bourbon, very jolly and then very sleepy. And if this wouldn't be enough, homosexual director George Cukor, a close pal of Haynes, happened to be collaborating with Gable on the set of Gone with the Wind. During a party, another buddy, Andy Lawler, let slip a rather indiscreet remark. "Oh, George is directing one of Billy's old tricks." When this comment reached Gable's ears, he wasn't amused. In fact, he was fuming. Gable stormed off the set, vowing not to return until they found someone else to helm the project. Gable's exact words, "I won't be directed by a fairy, I have to work with a real man." So they called in Victor Fleming to steer the ship and wrap up this Civil War masterpiece. Now Gable's sensitivity on this matter might stem from an unusual twist in his birth certificate. His birth certificate mistakenly marked him down as female. This, combined with his father's knack for belittling him and labelling him as effeminate during his early years, added fuel to the fire of Gable's masculinity concerns. As a little bonus, here's a sneak peek shared exclusively with you, my dedicated audience. There were rumours of an affair between Gable and the tough guy Rod LaRocque when they worked together on Ernst Lubitsch's Forbidden Paradise. Later, LaRocque revealed he preferred men and had a lavender marriage with actress Vilma Banky. Marlene Dietrich once remarked that in those early years, Gable seemed open to anything that had a hole and the promise of a couple of dollars. Gable exemplified something they call the lavender ladder, a well-known Hollywood tradition. It's where people like Gable traded sex for money or career advancement while trying to make it big in showbiz. Despite Gable not liking the more feminine aspects of homosexuality, there are stories that hint Gable often played the submissive role in his relationships. He uses tales from people who were romantically involved with Gable to show that he typically took the bottom role, which is associated with the more effeminate partner in a male relationship. Gable's love life wasn't confined to same-sex affairs. He wedded women but maintained an open promiscuity, even in matrimony. As his career soared, Ben Maddox became Gable's close confidant and sometimes lover, often joining him on vacations. But Maddox's nosy role led to some boneheaded decisions, like nearly turning down Mutiny on the Bounty. Maddox's double-dealing role meant other people's straight affairs made headlines in exchange for secrecy about Gable's and other men's trysts. Carole Lombard, Gable's third wife, once made a snide comment about his manhood. If he were an inch shorter, we'd be talking about the Queen of Hollywood. In a time when being homosexual was heavily stigmatized, there have been persistent whispers about a connection between them. Adding fuel to the speculation, The way Gable portrayed characters entangled in explicit sexual themes raised eyebrows, especially the infamous scene in Gone with the Wind, where Rhett Butler shares an intimate moment with his male friend Ashley Wilkes. But let's remember, the Hollywood landscape in Gable's heyday was a world apart from what we know today. Many actors felt compelled to hide their true selves to shield their careers, so even if Gable did have a different sexual orientation, it's likely he would have kept it under wraps. Moreover, the fascination with Gable's personal life and his unwavering popularity have only fueled the speculations about his sexuality. Yet whether Clark Gable identified as homosexual, straight, or somewhere between, one thing is irrefutable. He stands as an enduring icon in Hollywood's Hall of Fame. He's celebrated not just for his talent, but also for that magnetic charisma and striking good looks. His legacy in the film industry is etched in stone, and no matter the rumours, he remains a giant of the silver screen. Let's set the record straight. It was just a means to an end, nothing more, so those rumours suggesting he was homosexual or even bisexual, I think it's nonsense, quite the opposite actually. Clark had a profound appreciation for women of all ages and types. Alright, I've dished out some of the juiciest scandals that were brewing right under the public's nose. Back in the day, these tidbits were well-guarded secrets because the studios would stop at nothing to shape public perception, regardless of whether the rumours were true or not. If tarnishing a big shot's reputation served their financial interests, they were all for it. They'd toss anyone under the bus if it meant more money in their pockets. After all, they say any publicity is good publicity, even if it's tarnished. If you thought you knew everything about this era, think again. We've unveiled hidden scandals, forbidden affairs, and some of Hollywood's darkest secrets that they never wanted you to know. And don't forget, our next video is an absolute must-watch. What was J. Edgar Hoover's biggest secret that could have destroyed him? You won't want to miss it.